Hey, Sandra, let's now bring in Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt to talk more about this. And Charlie, I wanted to start off with this piece of video that we've been running all day today of Kamala Harris being asked on her Asia trip about Afghanistan, where she seems to laugh off the question from a reporter. Listen here.
Hey, listen, so I'm going to, hold on. Slow down, everybody. I want to talk about two things. First, Afghanistan. We couldn't have a higher priority right now.
So, Charlie, I don't know if that's just a nervous tick on her part or if it's a way of her taking a beat to gather her thoughts, but it just seems so misplaced, particularly in this case when, as Sandra was pointing out, we had that story of the mother who dropped a 2-year-old child in the rush to get to the airport gates, and the child was trampled to death under the feet of so many hundreds of people who were rushing the gates as well.
Well, precisely, John. I mean, you know, I think that you're probably right that it is sort of an effort to sort of gather her thoughts. And after all, she was being asked specifically about Afghanistan when she shushed the reporter and said, hold on a second, and then begins to talk about Afghanistan and answer the question. But it really is, it does reveal a terrible sense of politics, a terrible sense of the seriousness of the situation that the country is concerned about right now in Afghanistan, and it really does sort of make you wonder. And of course, it doesn't help either that she's on her way to Vietnam right now, yeah. Just as so many people are drawing the comparisons to the disaster we're seeing unfold in Kabul to what we saw happen in Saigon when we left there. So it really is really bad politics at the very least.
And it's cringeworthy. It's difficult to watch. When you see the seriousness of the situation, yeah. And this is someone who is backing up the policy to withdraw in the way that we did, in the time frame that we did, and we have not had a formal press conference from her. I have not. I mean, it took, I think it was 2 tweets in the first week of this that we heard from her. And she said back in 2019 she would ensure that all progress made over there would be retained and that she would stand up for the women who have made so much progress in that country. I'll put to you, Charlie, the question that Jen Griffin said is the question of the moment. I think you just heard me say the update from the French. They're worried about that timeline. They don't believe that they can get everybody out by then. Jennifer said, will he, President Biden, let the Taliban dictate to him that August 31st pullout date? That is the question. And by the way, I just heard in my ear that we're a couple minutes away now from the White House press briefing. Jen Psaki missed a few of them last week. She'll be holding one in a couple moments.
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. You know, the whole beginning of the problem here is the fact that Joe Biden set a date certain for pulling out and then never went back to sort of pay attention to the realities on the ground to determine whether or not it was a wise thing to carry out at that time or not, or whether to adjust based on all that. And then, Lord knows, failed to make all the contingency plans to make sure that our people, our American citizens, whatever Afghan interpreters or other people that we wanted to get out, and our equipment were all gotten out before the military abandoned the airport and left themselves. And I mean, you know, it's easy to look at this and see this as a crisis of one weekend. It's more than that. It's a crisis of 20 years. And in a lot of ways, it's even more than that. It's a crisis of 50 years if you count all of the years that President Biden has sold himself as one of the leading experts in Washington when it comes to foreign policy, and no place has our foreign policy been more had greater interests than in the Middle East over that period of time. And Joe Biden has always been the sort of the grand poobah, the great expert on all of this stuff, and he sold himself in the campaign, as much as he did campaign, as an expert on all of this stuff, as someone who's going to bring calm to these situations. And he has failed on every step, on every front of that.
And Charlie, on that point, there is criticism that's being aimed at the president as to whether he's getting bad intelligence or he's just failing to grasp what's really going on. Listen to what he said on Friday. Watch this.
We've made an agreement with the Taliban thus far. They've allowed them to go through. It's in their interest for them to go through. So we know of no circumstance where American citizens are carrying an American passport are trying to get through to the airport.
Well, like so many other things regarding this evacuation, he had to walk that back yesterday. There's also the issue of whether there's al-Qaeda or not. They had to walk that back. ISIS as well. Charlie, it's just kind of stunning, all of the statements and misstatements that are coming out of his mouth.
It really is. And you know, the most remarkable thing about that is I don't think you need the CIA to tell you that you have a problem around Kabul. I don't think you need the CIA to tell you that you need to make these plans to get people out safely. That you don't need an intelligence service to know that. And this raises questions about the degree to which he has isolated himself, in which case you turn to the people that work for him, his cabinet secretaries, his Secretary of State, his Secretary of Defense, and they clearly, obviously, knew that this was an impending problem. And the question is, A, did they not know? I don't think that's the case. Did they not tell President Biden that this was a problem? And if they didn't tell him, why didn't they tell him? Or is Joe Biden just lying about all of it? Or has he forgotten all of it? No answer to any of those is a good answer. And until they settle down and realize the seriousness of the situation that they have gotten us into, I don't think we're going to see a way out.
Charlie Hurt joining us. Charlie, thank you.